Hello everyone, good day, and this is Miss Tanya speaking, and I'm recording this video for the benefit of those students who wanted to get a refresher from barriers in communication discussion, which I have shared with you a few days ago. Okay, so let me share my screen and let's dive into it right away. Okay. All right. So here's my presentation, okay, for this week. So we have there, all right. So common barriers to effective communication. So our source, just to acknowledge, skillsyouneed.com, barriers in communication. So we have 9 common barriers to effective communication. So what are these hindrances? What are these things, okay, that make communication impossible? So we have to learn them, okay. So we have number 1, the use of jargon, okay. So when we say jargon, these are overcomplicated, unfamiliar, okay, technical terms, right? So these words are only applicable to a group of people, all right, to a profession or to an organization. Okay, so if you use these terms outside of your circle, okay, outside of your organization, it can become meaningless, all right, or it may seem unfamiliar to other people. Okay, and if that happens, okay, that makes the use of jargon a barrier in communication. So to give you a good example, here's what I have chosen. I have posted here jargon for policemen and medical jargons, okay? So if you are a policeman, you use these terms, okay? Suspect, 10-4, Code 8, Code 11, FTP, assumed room temperature. So for example, you are a policeman and for example, you ride a train or you ride a bus, then suddenly, okay, your fellow policeman fell and you need help. So you ask, okay, the passenger next to you ask that, hey, we have to hurry, help me out because it's code 8, right? So code 8 here means, in police jargon, it means it's a term that means officer needs help immediately, all right? So the passenger is just a student, let's say. So he or she would not get what you meant, all right, when you said code 8 because that term is unfamiliar to him or her, okay? So that's what makes it a barrier in communication. So understanding would not take place because of the word that you have used, okay, that he or she finds unfamiliar. Same thing goes with these medical organs. We have gastro, hepato, spleno, pancreato, and adreno. So if you use these terms to talk to your patient, then he or she would not get it, all right? So how can we solve this barrier? Okay, when you are talking to a common person outside of your circle, outside of your profession, maybe you can just use common words that he or she would easily understand. All right, so understanding can take place, right? Let's move forward. So yeah, I have also discussed to you the difference between jargon and slang. So you know now what's a jargon and slang, so they are completely different. So jargon are those words that I've discussed a while ago, and then slang is used in spoken language, it's informal and cannot be used in academic text. So I have used British and American slang words and phrases, right, to give you an understanding of what's the difference between jargon and slang, right? And you know that already. Moving forward, okay, so I have shown you a video right here, so let me play it. so that everybody could watch. All right, what's the video about? Because last time some of you guys could not access what's the video because it cannot be played on their part. So here it is now.
What's up, man? You alright? What you mean I'm alright? Yeah, I'm alright. Why you ask? I was just saying hello. Do you know what the toilet is? Where's the what? The toilet. The what? The place where you go to pee. Where you from? Yeah, I'm from England. England? Where's that? That Paris? No. Hey, Jerome! Jerome! What's good? From England. You from where? Ain't that Paris? Say that again. Say that again. Say that again. Say Harry Potter. Where's the toilet?
All right. So that's the video. So what have you observed to answer that? Well, there's a new boy from school, and maybe he enrolled in one of the schools in the US, and then he asked, where's the toilet? And the American guy did not understand what does it mean. Okay, so that's what makes it a language a barrier, the language differences. Okay, so toilet is actually a British word for comfort room. Right? So that is an example of how language differences, it's also one of the barriers in communication. You will know that later. Okay, so that's what makes it a barrier, right, in communication. Next, we have number 2, emotional barriers and taboos. Okay, so the gist of this barrier is that when you cannot put into words what you really feel, if you're too happy, if you're too sad, if you're too hurt, that you cannot put into words, or you cannot describe how you're feeling, well, it can be one of the barriers in communication as well. And also taboos, these are the topics that you find off limits. So the topics that you find sensitive, all right, or the topics that you have no knowledge about. So difficult topics or taboos may include politics, religion, disabilities, sexuality, racism, right, or any opinion that you seem to find it unpopular. Okay, so this can also be an example of a barrier, emotional barriers and taboos. Next, we have lack of attention, interest, distractions, or irrelevance to the receiver. This is actually the most common type of barrier because sometimes when we are talking to someone, that person is not attentive to us. Maybe he or she is texting or chatting or playing, okay, using his or her phone, right? So because of that, the receiver did not get your message right away. So it can be a barrier. Another would be interest. So if you're not interested with the topic, for example, you're not listening because it's science and you hate science, okay? Distractions, like you have a classmate who are very talkative and he or she likes to talk to you, right? And then you participated. So that's it. We also have irrelevance to the receiver. So yeah, there are also conversations or topics in communication whenever you're conversing or talking to someone that you really find irrelevant to you as a person. So it can be a barrier, right? Number 4, we have differences in perception and viewpoint. So each one of us has our own perceptions. And sometimes if we have different perspectives, for example, for me, love is blind, and for you, love is a commitment. Okay, so the topic is love, but we have different perspectives about it, right? So we could disagree, we could argue, okay, if we have differences in perception and viewpoint. So it can be a barrier in communication. Number 5, we have physical disabilities. So physical disabilities can be categorized into 2, either hearing problems or speech difficulties. So hearing problems are actually most common when you are talking to an elderly, okay? Like what I have given as an example, when I talk to my grandma, okay, he or she cannot get, all right, my message because she has hearing problems, so I have to repeat what I just have said. So it would be hassle on my part, but I have no choice but to repeat. We also have speech difficulties. So these are words, okay, that you say when you communicate that you stutter, okay, when you mumble those words, right? Maybe you find it, you have no confidence, you are shy, right? Or you are just learning the language, okay? So for example, we have here, do you want to go to the beach? So if that happens, most commonly the reaction of the receiver of the message would be like, I can't really understand what he's saying because he's stuttering, right? So it can be a barrier, but we have to know first the person, right? What if that person is just learning the language on the process and he's trying to communicate with you, all right, in English just to understand you, right? Or to express himself. So we don't judge a person. We have to be patient sometimes, all right, when they stutter, and maybe that person lacks confidence, right? We have to understand because we are all here language learners. We are speakers of English language, but we get to learn a lot of things about English every day, right? So we must have to extend our patience so that we would know how to respond, okay? Next, we have number 6, physical barriers to nonverbal communication. So what is this? So you cannot be able to see the nonverbal cues, posture, gestures, and body language because, again, you are using technology-aided communication style. For example, you talk to someone through phone calls, text messages, chats, video calls. Of course, this method is less effective compared to face because you can really see the gesture, okay, of the one you are speaking with, right? So with that, you would know how to reply to him or her because you have seen the gesture. But in here, in like what we are doing now, most of you are off cam because they understand if we turn on our video feeds, sometimes the connection would be slower, right? So we turn off our cameras. And I myself, kung na lang bilin, nga on cam, all right? So if that happens, I cannot control if all of you really are listening to me because your cameras, your video feeds are turned off. So physical barriers to nonverbal communication can be a barrier. Next, number 7, language differences and the difficulty in understanding unfamiliar accents. So for example, you talk to a foreigner, let's say a British one, okay? So he or she uses unfamiliar accents like y'all, you use, you guys, a good day, mate, and all of those, all right? And you as a person, you just have encountered those words. You find those words unfamiliar to you. So there would be a misunderstanding that will happen because you don't get what he or she is trying to say, right? So how do we solve this barrier? How can we solve language differences? First, you have to learn it and practice it. So sometimes people get to go to abroad and they adapt the way speakers of that country would speak, right? So because of that adaptation of language, they tend to understand now each other. They tend to talk at the level of their pacing, right? So they now speak like British ones, like Russians, like Americans, and all of those stuff. So that's how we solve this barrier. Okay. Next, we also have expectations and prejudice, which may lead to false assumptions or stereotyping. So expectations happen when you expect too much, when you assume. that you, to the point that you don't listen anymore to the speaker. Okay, I'm confident he or she will say yes because he or she is my friend. Okay, so with that reasoning that you have in your head, you don't listen anymore, and you find yourself at the end of the conversation that the receiver of the message or the speaker of the message, okay, just said no to you. So we have to listen, actively listen to avoid this barrier. Okay, and also prejudice when you stereotype. So you don't talk to that person because you find that okay, that person is of the same race. I don't like them. Okay, so if you do that and that person is trying to talk to you, then of course it can be a barrier, right? Because you will not get the message, and then it turns out at the end of the road that that person is your teacher. Okay, so if you stereotype, if you put prejudice, okay, it's actually a downfall on your part because in the first place you didn't give a chance to that person to communicate with you, so it would be your loss, right? So we don't do that in communication. We don't judge, we don't stereotype, okay? So we don't also expect. So take note that two things can destroy any relationship. It can be unrealistic expectations and poor communication. So have or set realistic expectation and have a good communication, right? Lastly, we have cultural differences. So the norms of social interaction vary greatly in different cultures, as do the way in which emotions are expressed. Okay, so like what I have given you as an example last week, the way Hiligaynons get angry sound sweeter, right, to the way Cebuanos get angry, right? Because that's how we express our emotions. We are known, Hiligaynon people, to be sweet talkers. And sometimes, even when we get angry, other people, like for example, Ilocanos or Tagalog, would misinterpret that we are talking to someone sweetly, but in fact, we are angry with them. Okay, so that's how cultural differences can be a barrier in communication. Okay, also this example right here, okay, because of their culture, the way they dress. So you have there a guy in a suit, and then here the one that shows too much skin, maybe an Indian. So they both think of themselves as freak, right? So it's because of their culture, the way they dress, right? But that's the downfall of cultural differences. Also here, the teacher asked, is the guy wise or poor? So the boy answered, I think he looks wise because maybe in his or her, in his culture, when he sees someone, okay, like this, ah, in his culture, maybe he's smart, he's a monk, or he's an influential person, okay? And then the girl answered, I think he looks poor because maybe the culture of this girl is that when she sees someone looking like this, he would be a beggar, he would be poor. Okay, so yeah, that's how cultural differences may affect, or yeah, may affect conversation, may affect communication. Okay, and it can be a barrier in communication. Right, so to avoid these barriers, please watch effective communication skills that I have posted during the asynchronous class that we had on YouTube. All right. So you know how can we solve these barriers. All right. And I know that you are thinking now of the ways of how we can solve or prevent barriers in communication. And please reserve that thought. Okay, you will need that during during your examination next week. All right, so that's it, guys. I hope that this recording would really help you next week on your exam. And yes, God bless you in your exam, guys, and have a great weekend. Take time to relax, take time to unwind for at least tonight. It's Saturday, so I'm gonna post this right away, guys. At least tonight, and then by Sunday, maybe you can start reviewing, right? So I'm hoping for a good result of your exam, guys. And if you have questions, you can just chat me. I would understand if it's too late because you're studying for exams. I would really understand. So no big deal. Yeah. So uh, I hope you could get a good score in your examination, and yeah, take things one step at a time. So that's it, guys. Bye.